Joe Biden had an unfortunately awkward moment in the end portion of his interview with Charlamagne the God. Without further ado, let's see how it went down.
Problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks. I will come back.
Now, following that interview, Charlamagne the God did release a statement to Mediaite saying, quote, "We have been loyal to Democrats for a long time. Black people have invested a lot into that party, and the return on investment has not been great." As Biden said in our brief interview, when I asked him if Dems owe the Black community, absolutely was his answer. So let's see what you got. Votes are quid pro quo. You can't possibly want me to fear Trump more than I want something for my people. Now, there was a lot of backlash to what Biden had to say, and hashtags like "you ain't black" and "Joe Biden is racist" started trending on Twitter. But he did apologize, and he said, quote, "I shouldn't have been such a wise guy. I shouldn't have been so cavalier. No one should have to vote for any party based on their race, their religion, or their background."
First comment is that Joe Biden is so awkward. When he tries to relate to minorities, it's just a train wreck.
As
so
liberals usually are.
Was that?
Keeping it real. As a lot of liberals are. Yeah.
Yeah. When he says things like, "Come on, man, like, don't do that. What are you doing, Joe? Please, for God's sake, don't do that," right? Look, you can't speak for African Americans if you're not African American. That's obvious. Of course, people were all over him for that, and that makes sense. And all of that was wrong. And I also want to make a comment about Charlamagne the God. So two things I strongly agree with him on. Number one, you got leverage, you use it. That's called politics. So Charlamagne the God understands politics a lot better than a lot of other establishment Democrats. And so I'm not saying he's one. So he's right about that, absolutely. And he's right that just not being Trump is not good enough. You know, it might be good enough for a regular voter who's going to vote no matter what, and they're going to pick. But you've got to excite people to show up to the polls, and people have to expect better than that. Yes, you're running against the world's worst boogeyman. And so, yes, a lot of people are going to vote based on that. But that shouldn't be good enough. You should have an affirmative policy that excites people, including African Americans and all minorities. The part I appear to disagree with Charlamagne the God, but it would need more context and a conversation with him, is that he seems to be saying quid pro quo, you have to pick an African American to be your VP. If he is saying that, then I disagree with that, because that's a distraction. The question is, how good is the VP candidate on African American policies and issues? So if you pick Candace Owens, that didn't do the job. And I know that Charlamagne the God doesn't think that, right? But the policies towards African Americans are so much more important than just picking an African American, because that allows the establishment to distract you from the issues and the policies, and then they say, "Oh no, it's okay, mission accomplished, because I picked someone African American. Then I don't have to bother giving you the policies that you want and need."
Yeah, look, I don't know. I didn't read his comment that way, but if he does mean that, I think I definitely agree with you. I think that just simply naming someone based on their race to kind of appease a group of people doesn't go far enough. And I think what Charlamagne the God wants, and I think this makes a lot of sense, is for the Democratic Party to not take the Black vote for granted, to not think that they're entitled to it, because they're not. Now, the Republican Party has been so disastrous toward minority groups that by default, Democrats have overwhelmingly won the African-American vote in this country for a long time. But that doesn't mean that it'll be the case forever. And I think that you can't just assume that you have that vote, you have that demographic in the bag. You need to show how your policies are going to fundamentally improve their lives. And I think that that is a relevant and important conversation to have. And, you know, I know that we're tough on Biden, but he did the right thing in apologizing. He should have apologized, and he should realize that he He's not the arbiter of how Black voters should cast their ballot come November.
So I agree with that completely, and I thought he had a good apology in saying that he was being cavalier, and he was. That's a good description of it. Now, I do want to say, though, that a lot of people who are defending Joe Biden today go, oh, come on, what's the big deal? He didn't mean it, et cetera, are exactly the same people who would have weaponized that if Bernie Sanders had said it, Donald Trump had said it, anybody, especially a progressive, they would have weaponized it to the nth degree. It would have made it nuclear. They would have said it eliminates him, et cetera. And going along with that, Charlamagne the God is asking, hey, you got to deliver for us in terms of policies. Well, I love that, as I said. But the most important place to do that was in the primaries, where we could have picked among the different Democrats. Once you're up against Trump and you're basically the only person up against Trump, yeah, then we are put in a corner. And so I wish the more thoughtful people in the media, like Charlamagne the God, would have insisted on that much more vociferously during the primaries. And he and I might not have agreed on the same candidate, but I wish they would have been a bigger examination of their record, because the reality is, we know, we've covered it on the show, Joe Biden's record on civil rights is actually not that good.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because when he said, "Look at my record," I was like, really, don't tell him to do that. if you want to appeal to Black voters, that's the last thing you want to do. I mean, he helped Republicans against busing. His crime bill criminalized Black people in this country and imprisoned them at disproportional rates. Not good. Don't do that.
Oh, he lied about his civil rights record dozens of times. I mean, he goes on and on. Now, is he better than Trump? I mean, my cat's better than Trump. Everybody's better than Trump. But yes, he's way, way, way better than Trump. And along with the negative things he did, he actually did some positive things as well, which Trump has not done at all. But among the different Democratic candidates, he might have actually literally been the worst in terms of the civil rights record. The only thing he had going for him, and this is not just a matter of optics, was being Obama's vice president. And so the reason why there's substance to that is a lot of African Americans in this country appreciated that here was a senior statesman, a white, powerful Democratic senator who was willing to take orders from a Black man, and very publicly so for 8 years, and happy to do it and happy to serve an African American president. That's a pretty good point. So score one for Biden on that, right? And yeah, it helped him, et cetera, but great. And he did a good job of that. And so God bless. But his civil rights record.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.